I really like that remote to the camera. Just saying.
Yeah, I like it too.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to those joining us in. I never had a cup with my face on it. My dad just going to show me a cup that has my nephew's face on it. I never had a cup with my face on it. He's so excited to have a grandchild. So excited. What you should be.
I do, man.
I know. Hopefully the excitement is when my time comes around.
There needs to be a little much left.
When my time comes around, we're going to have a little Anthony Edwards at the goal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take a look at that. It does sound like a beat that Tommy could get down to. Is this us now?
I'm just like you kind of plug it back in and see what happens.
I did. All right, man, we got to get started. Yeah, live. I'll take a look at this.
Yeah, but now it's not on now.
Oh, Lord. I forgot my computer. Well, thank you for those that are...
We're back. Looks like we're going to have a problem with YouTube tonight, so we won't be on there tonight, man.
Not a problem.
But everything else is running, man. Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Bender Sr.
Chris Jr., as always, here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community through just wholesome, rich conversation. Definitely glad to have everybody here tonight to join us for what we hope is another great episode of Above Average Black Men.
I don't have my iPad, so I
can't
check it.
Like, follow, subscribe, share, and comment. Interact with us. We're everywhere. I know we're struggling on YouTube, but we still got Instagram, Podbean, Spotify. We everywhere. You got options.
All them places got options. But yeah, we're excited for another great episode again of Above Average Black Men. I feel like I always say the same thing, how excited I am to talk about certain things, but I feel like that generally is the norm. Like I really do love our topics and the conversations that we have. And sometimes I feel like these conversations aren't had enough, just in, I would say, in our regular day-to-day lives. So definitely glad that we have them here, and hopefully we add some of these thoughtful conversations to other people's day-to-day lives here. So let's jump into it. I know our topic for today is to discuss the lack of unity in the community.
Unity in the community.
Why can't we seem to work together? He loves the rhymes. He grew up in the Johnny Cochran era.
Run DMC, Kumo D, Dougie Fresh.
Unity in the community. Like I definitely feel like that's something that was very important to us at a point in time, but over the years has seemed to dissipate or leave us. So definitely interested to kind of have that conversation and just discuss what it looked like and where we are now. Like how and where did it all change? I think historically, after slavery, I think we were kind of forced to have that sense of community where it's just like we always want to help each other. We had the Black Wall Streets. We had other places where Black people were extremely successful and had to work together. But then I think once we started to kind of get assimilated into kind of society, we'll say, I think we slowly started to see Black people kind of turning on each other. Like again, I think the unity was probably last time that I could think of, like of it, just something of a prevalent time that sticks to me is, and maybe this is just me personally, but like the Black Panthers.
Yeah, right to the militant group.
Yeah, the Black Panthers. Like, but that was a group to me or a time that really kind of stuck out where I just felt like it was this sense of Black power. You know what I mean? We were coming together. And I even say like maybe the Spike Lee era when he had like a School Days and what was the one with Radio Raheem?
Do the right thing.
Yes, Do the Right Thing. But yeah, I think we had a sense of community and we slowly, surely began to move away from that. And I feel like kind of one thing that I think is prevalent or kind of consistent with us moving from that is that we aren't on the same page when we think about what's important to us as a community and what's a common goal for us to move on. I think we're pulled in so many different directions that it's really allowed for us to start to not have that sense of unity anymore. So it's like either you're with me or you're against me. Either you're with this or you with this idea. And this is probably bigger than our community. I just think society in general, it's like people have this sense of like, oh, it's either me and what I think or nothing.
See, I don't know if we're pulled in another sense of so many different directions, or is it the fact that we just allow ourselves to become distracted? And what I mean is, I think there's always been a lot of different directions to go on. Everybody wasn't in the Black Panthers. Everybody didn't agree with the Black Panthers. Just like there's some who didn't agree with what Martin Luther King was doing. You're always going to have that. I think the difference now is those numbers have grown. I think part of the reason why the numbers have grown is people just don't care. It's, I think we're at a point now where people just don't pay attention to what's going around them until it directly impacts them. For instance, our schools have slowly been going downhill. And I remember sitting at the SRC meetings, everybody's coming. Now schools are like caving in. Now people want to start trying to figure out how to fix the situation. By the way, all year school is not going to fix the situation, but that's an interesting concept.
When I heard that, I was like, they barely come to school now. You think all year?
Well, but
make it better?
That's kind of what I'm talking about. You sit back and you come up with these ideas in your living room base. I don't know wherever you come up with ideas, and it seems like a good idea. However, how are you going to have school all year? And that's my point. One, are you having a conversation with the teachers? Because that's what we got to teach in school all year. Mm-hmm. Teachers are used to being out, 10 working, 10 months off, 2 months. That's the second thing, or the first thing. The second thing is you let school out early in June and August because it's too hot because schools don't have air conditioning. So now they're going to go to school all summer long?
All year.
But that's part of this unity because there's no conversation. There's no town hall meetings in these schools. If they show up, they show up. They don't. But having discussions around is this feasible? Does it work? It's great to say it, and it's a great campaign slogan, and I hope it works out for them. However, you got to look at the practicality of it all. And is it something that's going to actually work, or is it just something we want to say we tried? And I think part of it is because we don't have unity. We should be fussing about how poor our schools are. How some schools have and some schools have not. So we should be upset about that. We should be upset that, perfect example, people coming to these communities, buying up properties, building homes that people can't afford, who live there, taxes go up, people got to move. So, then you get these homeless encampments, all the stuff that's going on. I'm not saying that's the only factor, but nobody's upset about that.
Yeah. But even I'm just thinking about what we just mentioned, that topic of the idea of going to school full time all year round. And how what do you think the general consensus is with our population?
I think it depends on who you talk to.
And that's where I think that's the point, what I mean in terms of where do we come together at?
The teachers that I talk to, and I'm not saying I've spoken to millions of them, don't think it's a good idea. But keep in mind, the teachers I talk to in buildings without air conditioner, they in buildings that typically when the weather gets warmer, kids stop coming to school on a regular basis anyway. Mm-hmm. So I hear what they're saying, and if you're in a classroom with kids who've been driving you crazy all year long, and those 2 months off in the summertime, mean a lot to you. Now you're saying give it up. But the next question is, are they going to get more money? Or you going to get the same salary? Because right now they can get paid for 10 months, for 12 months over the duration of the year, or wherever way the contract works out. So are you going to get them more money, or you tell them you got to work in the summertime?
You just tell them show up in the summer.
So I think, so where the unity comes in, parents got to get involved and not just allow politicians to make random decisions. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, without input, without community input. And this is where disunity comes in, because we argue over silly things.
Yeah,
we argue. I used to go to the SRC meetings, and we had a school. I'm not going to mention the school, was failing for 10 years. And the lady gets up and says, "Well, man, my daughter has the right to go on her prom in her school with her friends." The school was failing for 10 years, and we sitting here talking about a prom. Your daughter is graduating from the school where they're going to weigh her grades when it's time to go to college, so her grades won't be her grades. Because they do the weighted thing. Mm-hmm. So and this is all we can think about is the prom. Somebody says, "Oh man, this is the funniest story." They were taking over Martin Luther King, and I think it was it was a poem by Langston Hughes on the side of the building. And this lady stands up and says, "Man, I appreciate what they do on the building, but they put these words up on the side of the building by this guy nobody ever heard of." Huh. So they was like, "Oh, this Langston Hughes guy." So the stuff we argue, but that's the stuff we argue about. Yeah. Instead of looking at the big picture and saying, "Okay, somebody's going to take over the school. It's still going to be called Martin Luther King, but they're going to make the school better." They're going to invest money in the school. They want to do things so kids be properly educated. So we argue over small stuff.
So I think the big question here really tonight is like, why can't we work together? Like, what are some of the things that we feel like are a hindrance?
Want me to compile my list right now?
Yeah, because I started to think about it a little bit. Like, what are some of the reasons why we as a community can't work together? I think it's definitely selfishness is a quick big.
But let me back up. I think the number one reason why is lack of vision.
I'm going to say lack of education.
Well, I say lack of vision because most of us don't understand what a good education can do for you. We're not looking at what an education can do for me in the future. We're looking at now. Mm-hmm. What do I need Algebra 2 now for? We're not thinking it's going to help me think logically when I get out this joint. We're not thinking down the line. I think that's what I mean, lack of vision. Like, education, and I'm not saying everybody has to go to college, but a high school education should be mandatory. Kids who walk around in this century that we live in who can't write and who are illiterate with high school diplomas, that should not be acceptable. Because what happens is it continues to increase, that whole population in poverty. Because they're functional illiterates. They can't get decent jobs, so that becomes a problem. So I think if you don't have enough vision to say, well, if I get this education, whether it's high school, whatever, this is what I can possibly do with my life, you don't see the value in it. And so you got a group of people who don't see the value in the system. So, it's the same thing when I look at a community and, you keep robbing the store, then you complain because there's no supermarket in the community, but y'all rob the store every weekend. Yeah. So I think lack of vision is probably one of the big, to me, I think is one of the biggest reasons because we get stuck on here and now.
I think a big part of it too is like this, it's a big idea, just sense like you can't tell people anything.
Yeah, you got that right.
Like it's a lack of accountability. It's just like everybody thinks that they are just doing this fantastic, great job, and you can't tell anybody anything.
Well, and
it's two sides to that. I feel like there's people who don't want to hear it, but there's some people who just straight flat out scared to say things.
But I think there's several components to that. I think the first component is you have people who are operating out of a norm that are mediocre or subpar. So they don't know any different. So they think they are doing a good job. I think the second part of it is, we have been taught to compare ourselves to other people. At least I'm not as bad as so-and-so. Mm-hmm. So-and-so could be the worst person in the world. I'm almost the worst person, but I'm okay because I'm not as bad as so-and-so. And I think the third thing is, going in line with what we're talking about, what you said is, I think people now think disagreement is war. Mm-hmm. They take disagreements personally. How so dare you not? Yeah, they take it personally. Either you're insulting their intelligence or you're calling them, it's like you can't critique. Mm-hmm. You can't say, well, hey, I like what you're doing, but I have a better way to do it. Or let's add this to it. And that's the other part of it is because everybody wants to be the big man. everybody want their name to be at the top, man. They don't want to collaborate and say, let's work this out together. My name just got to go first. So I think that mentality plagues our community.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point. I think another thing is there's a certain group of black people who think they're better than the rest. If that makes sense. Like you got black people from the suburbs who think, since they're in the suburbs, they have a better life, and they automatically know what's best, or don't even want to deal with black people in the city. Versus sometimes there's black people in the city who look at people in the suburbs like, oh, they're not really black. So it's like kind of thing on both sides.
But we've been fighting this in history because George Washington Carver and W. Du Bois got into a debate about this because W. Du Bois had this thing called a talented tenth. He figured a tenth of the African American community to go to college, get your education, and that's what we should be aspiring to do. So George Washington Carver was like, wait a minute, that's not good for everybody. You can't take a guy that's been working on the farm his whole life in slavery, you can't read or write, and now tell him to go to college. He's better off owning the farm. He's better off developing his own products and doing things for himself. And that was another part where everybody's fighting instead of saying, okay, well, cool. I'm gonna get smart enough to have a bank so I can finance dude with the farm. There's not a competition. So we're gonna help each other here because you're gonna sell your products. I'm gonna get paid back. So we have to start looking at it differently. So it's been an age-old struggle. Field Negro against the house Negro. It's something that's been plaguing our community for a long period of time. I think now because of social media, because generations are different now. I mean, things have just changed. It's more prevalent now. And it's also more acceptable now. I mean, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be me against everybody else.
And I think that's really, like you said, straight on. A big part of it is this sense of just me and not thinking of how your choices, or like how you move about things, how we just kind of let things slide, or things that we actually ride for, how that impacts the future and the people around us. I think certainly kind of, like you said, social media has a good stranglehold on all of us and impacts, I think,
not all of us.
A large majority of it is how we influence, how we view the world. And you hear people start to even just kind of think, people that look like us, that say that race is not necessarily a factor, on a day-to-day basis or in their life.
See, now you're poking the bear.
No, but that's
the situation behind the scene.
That's the root of, like, because I've even outside of that, I've been seeing just videos online. Like I said, like for instance, your Candace Owens, who like she will go around the country and just talk about how they're crying racism. That's not a thing.
Because it's ignorance. Race does matter. Is every white person
but that's an example of somebody that's
I agree.
Against us?
But is every white person a bigot or a racist and a KKK? No. However, they are enough out there to keep it alive, to keep fanning the flame. So you can sit and tell me all day long, just because you think you haven't faced it, you can't say it doesn't exist. That's like me saying that, okay, well, nobody's ever going to get their heart broken because I never got my heart broken. That's dumb.
Or I think another thing too is like when you talk about racism, people just think it's supposed to be like this overt 1890s, like it's supposed to look like Django.
But it is. But you know what? It almost is. The thing is, they find other excuses. It almost is. Some cases it's that bad.
Cases
when you see cops shooting and killing people, man, or people taking somebody out and beating them to death. This is in some cases, that's the extreme, but it is that bad.
Yeah.
And we still find excuses to say, like when they shot the dude sitting in the car. Well, he didn't, he didn't obey fast enough.
Or not the recent one. It was an airman. Yeah. He was at his own house. Oh yeah, that was crazy. They went to the wrong house.
And the dude shot him soon as he opened the door. Mm-hmm. So now the armed forces are investigating it too, because the dude got an armor camera on. Dude opened the door with the gun down to his side, and the guy just opened up and fired.
Yep.
And not shot him once. So it is. So I think this goes back to how I think we have to learn how to disagree. And I think that's the biggest problem. We have to learn how to agree to disagree and not become enemies. Mm-hmm. We have to learn to understand that we don't have to agree on every, as long as we got the big picture in mind. It's like
And I mean, that was from our last show.
Yeah.
That kind of that idea and question of what is the big picture, or do we all see it? Is it the same for all of us? And I think that's certainly a divide in us being able to come together.
But it doesn't have to be the same, but it needs to have. It can have the same foundation.
Commonalities.
For instance, everybody's definition of success can be different, but we all can become successful. But we're not going to become successful with somebody's, my favorite analogy, dragging their feet in the back of the wagon. Somebody just constantly holding us back.
A lot more people, I feel like, dragging their feet nowadays.
I agree, but that's my point. I think so. It has to be not just. It has to be. You have to start with the same foundation. Understand that we're going to finish in different places, and that's okay. Somebody may say, "I only want $50,000." That's okay. Somebody say, "I may want $500,000." That's okay. If that's their definition of success. But the problem is, we're tugging on each other because we don't agree. And Devin hit the nail on the head when he started talking about how sometimes our classism within our race becomes a problem.
Yes.
Light skin versus dark skin.
He's a trash man.
Too.
Oh, he's a trash man, so therefore he's a trash man. And we talk about this all the time on so many shows where I'm a female. I'm not dating trash man. Forget what what he can be. So it's so many things within our community that we fight about that kind of adds to the big picture of us not being together. And we're different because we'll fight and we draw lines in the sand. People don't look like us a fight and they'll still do business. They'll still get business done.
Because they look at the deal.
Yeah, they'll get the deal done, man.
Benefits.
We sitting there so busy arguing and fighting. I mean, it's funny because I can't think. A football player was talking about when Kaepernick in the NFL, and he said he remember he was having these conversations with certain other NFL players, and he was amazed at the lack of disunity. And because some of the stars were saying, hey, they can't get rid of all of us because we're the product. We're the product. They can threaten us, like Jerry Jones can say he's going to get rid of all the black players, but we all know that ain't going to happen.
Being crazy.
But because our idea of success is different. So, and because somebody's idea of success was, I don't want to be seen as a troublemaker. Forget I'm standing for something that's right. I don't want to be viewed as this or that because I think it's going to, it's going to kind of interfere with my marketing myself for different things. And then you had some people like
that little kid that you got.
I go back to the NBA when the NBA was on strike, and I still was amazed by this when Derek Fisher, Kobe Bryant, T. Wade, Carmelo Anderson, Anthony, LeBron James, they got together. They broke the union, or they broke the league. Because they pulled their money together, and Luke Walton, they paid Luke Walton and Kobe Bryant paid the salaries of the people in them. And players, the different era. All these guys ain't owning 10 houses. They went to play. They stuck together. Now they all knew the guy at the end of the bench knew he wasn't going to be making 10, 20, $100 million when he came back. So he didn't say, "Well, I'm gonna make my money now. I'm going to show and blade again." No, they stuck together.
A really good example of the idea of unity, because it was like. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, those top guys in the league, Carmelo, Dwayne, they ain't have to do nothing. They was gonna get that money, but they understood like what the sacrifice was, kind of making sure that they work together as a group, and then looking out for the people who don't necessarily have it to be in that fight like that. And I think that's kind of the unity that I would love to see in our community, where it's like you got the people who are in these positions that, maybe it doesn't impact them as much. But they can certainly kind of tilt things in a way where it would help people under them and help everybody all together. And I think that's where we kind of lacking at, is where it's no reaching back, to pull the next guy up or sacrificing, like all those things. I feel like we low-key forming a list right now.
I was watching a podcast, and I can't think of the name of the podcast, or Ryan Clark and those guys.
The Pivot.
And who's the light-skinned dude? He cracks me up, man.
Channing Crowder.
He is freak bull.
Crazy. But you know what? He is crazy, and he was talking crazy, but he was right. He was talking about somebody must have asked him, "Why do you do so much for people you don't know?" Because he does a lot for kids and different stuff like that. And he was going off. He was like, he always got at his colorful metaphors, but he was saying it's not about people don't know. He said, I know what I need to know. I know some of those kids go to bed without dinner. It's my obligation. And he says, no, it's not my direct community, but we're all a community. It's my obligation to see that they go to, because I care about that. You know, and he said, yeah, I may not know these kids who are not being educated the way they should be educated, but it does not leave me with my obligation. And he's right. And then he said something this is the point that he said that really stuck out to me. I never thought about like that. He said, he says, I don't care. Well, he said, he cursed. He said, I don't give a what makes you do it. He says, if it's God, if you got a bleeding heart or whatever it is, just keep doing it. He was like, yeah. He says, that's the one thing. And he's right. That's the one we can come together again. We don't have to sit here and say, well, if I want to uplift my community because I can't work with you because you're a Muslim or because you're a Christian or because, you believe this, you believe that. And that's the stuff that we got to set aside.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of something as well that I think
but it's a basketball player saying that. This ain't a politician or football player. I'm sorry. Not the smartest person. And I'm not telling you. But you know what I mean. He's
not a Rhodes Scholar.
No, I'm not even saying not a Rhodes Scholar. There's people who get paid, economists who get paid to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
That's all they do. They never played professional sport. He could be very intelligent. I don't know.
I wasn't needs to be an economist like that.
But my point is, that's my point. How come you can't be as an economist? Why you can't figure out how to fix this?
I just thought about Martin Luther King, and how he wasn't necessarily an economist, very smart, well-read guy. Smart dude, yeah. But he saw that. I think one thing, if something that impacts one set of people, certainly is going to impact us all in a way. Mm-hmm. And I think we get so caught in that idea when even talking about unity, it just kind of clicked for me. Of course I want things to go well for Black people, but I also want things to go well for all people, but more so, I just see where there's a need for us the most in a lot of these scenarios.
When every ethnicity or every race is flourishing, the economy is going to be at its best point.
Yeah.
It's going to operate at its highest point.
It's a book called The Sum of Us that says how racism really, it doesn't just impact Black people or a specific race. It really impacts everybody. And the idea or an example that it used was when the swimming pools had shut down, as soon as they integrated the swimming pools, in some of those white communities, they started closing the pool. Now nobody has a pool. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it didn't just impact the Black people that was trying to swim. The white people in that neighborhood too, it impacted them. And I think that's kind of the idea behind it.
Because if you look at the reverse, and we talked about it a couple of shows ago, that was another reason they let the Negro play baseball. Mm-hmm. Because the Negroes were selling out these night games. And it wasn't because they liked night games. It's because y'all had to work during the day and play baseball at night, and then other people could only go to the game at night because they was working for white people during the day. But it was a revenue stream, so it wasn't just because we wanted to do this good thing. So economics drives a lot, and so if we could ever come together in unity in economics, we could change this place. Like if every Black person said, "Hey, we're not going to go to Chick-fil-A for a month," you don't think Chick-fil-A would get into that fight? Let Black, you know what? We ain't buying no Nikes for a month. We not going to Walmart.
Not watching the NBA.
Yeah, we not going to support. We're not going to buy a ticket to these teams. We all going to boycott a playoff game. You don't think for a second that would get people's attention? Yeah,
it would, but that idea of coming together, like the unity part,
that takes organization, though.
Yeah,
something you said about Dr. King, they were organized back then, so they could take the time and really make real change. Whereas now, we wouldn't even know where to start with that.
No, but see, I disagree. I think it does take organization. But he didn't start by trying to organize the whole country. He went in a small place. So that's the way you would do it. You would start in a small place. You can't, and now it would be a little easier. Not easy, but easier because you have social media. Because you can get on social media and say, "Yo, meet me at so and so and so and so and so." So so it would be a little easier.
I think it's part of the problem too, because people got short term.
Yeah,
these attention spans. Because even just think about
I'm on my way.
All the things that have happened over the past few years that we come together, we rally for a short period of time. It's important for that period of time, but then when it's time to we gotta keep our foot on the gas.
And I can answer that question. That's because most of those people get involved in things not because of sense of right or wrong or sense of morality. It's because of emotion. And emotion doesn't last long.
Yes.
And that's the problem. They don't sit down and say, "I'm getting involved because this is morally wrong. I'm getting involved because I want to make a difference." They get involved because they see something and it pulls in their heart, man, and now I'm gonna get involved. The problem with it is the emotion is not sustainable.
Nope.
And so that's the problem. But back to what Devin said, I think if everybody said, look, hey, you know what? I'm going to start with 10 of my friends, man. And I have 10 of my friends going to call somebody. So that's 20 of us. We're going to meet somewhere and we're going to start putting this in place. We're going to try to see how many people we can get, to just start this thing. Just start small, because and I think once you get it started, people will jump on. I don't think you're ever going to get 100% of the people because it's not going to happen.
No, that's impossible.
It's not going to. It's impossible. But you want to get enough to have an impact and get media attention. That's what you want, because that's how it starts to grow. It's like I look at the King movement. It's a perfect example. It's growing like crazy. Why? Because, it started, people didn't know about it, but now people putting stuff on social media, they're doing stuff in Cleveland, different places we're doing. So the more it's exposed, more people want to get on board. It's like our chapter in Philly. We started out with like 2 of us. Now it's like 30, almost 50 of us. Like 20 of us meet once a month regularly, at least 20, 21. We got 30 guys on the call on Monday nights. It's because people are bringing people. People are grabbing one person. Everybody ain't trying to get a whole crowd. We just getting one person. So I think that's how it starts. It does take patience, which we don't have, because we want to see 10,000 people show up the first day.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. And the first time 10,000 people don't show up. But I think you have to start somewhere. But I think it goes back to I think it's harder to get people together.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's harder to get people to agree on what the end game is. And I think that was the one thing LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, those guys had a common cause. And they sold it to everybody. So the guy making several $100,000 a year who wasn't going to make $1 billion understood, if I do this, I'm still going to get a 5% hike. Ain't going to be $1 billion, but I'm still getting something out of this. And that's what you have to do. And I think that's what we lack at, because we all want to get the $1 billion raise. We upset because, forget the fact that you invested more than I did. Or as like I was watching the Kobe Bryant video, and I love this video. He was talking about why one of the guys asked him, like, yo, dude, why you never pass us the ball in the fourth quarter? He said, because at practice, I'm the only one running hard. He said, I'm the only one there before practice and after practice. Y'all lollygagging, playing around. He says, hey, y'all leaving practice soon as over. Kobe's like, yo, he said, you didn't earn the right to take that shot. And how do you argue with that?
He didn't earn the right to take that shot.
Because he's putting everything in. Everybody else is just holding on to him, riding his coattail. So, you can't ride my coattail unless I'm at my best. And I think we have to figure out, how do we come together? How do we all get the Kobe mentality that we're going to do this together?
Do we? Do we even think that's possible?
No.
That's actually.
But I think
that's the sad part. The sad reality is
I think long term, if you started, which is why I do what I do, I think you can slowly move the change till you can start to have an impact. And what I mean by move the change is you got to start with the next generation. You start with a group of people in your generation, and I go back to what we're doing in King. We spent our whole first year in King just getting together, just learning each other, just kind of building relationships. So now we're starting to go out. But now we know enough about each other, we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We know enough about each other where we understand strengths and weaknesses, who's good at what, and that's what has to happen. So it's going to take time.
Yeah. And you know what I think about, like, just kind of, we're talking about unity in our community and everything. And I just thought about all of our kind of successful, notable Black people right now who everybody beefing. Like, ain't no unity in the community there.
It ain't just successful Black people, man.
Everybody beefing. Like, this person said that.
Because of social media.
Said that. Like,
you got Geno Jennings, who's a pastor. He go at every pastor. So it's even in the church they beefing, and it's public beefing now. It ain't like beefing nobody know about it. It's a public beefing that everybody's doing.
And I think that is something that has kind of stood out to me, is that, like, it's a lot of just bickering back and forth. Like, this person said this, that. And I think that's certainly something that happens kind of on a more minuscule level in our community right now. Like, it's just a lot of the bickering, the back and forth. And it's like, when we arguing about these things, it's like, man, do you even see what the bigger picture is? And like,
what's funny about what you just said, I was watching the video and they were talking about how the Shaq and the Kenny Smith beef got started.
Shaq and Shannon Sharp?
No, Kenny Smith.
Kenny Smith.
Oh, like back in the day.
So yeah, how it got started.
Doing an interview.
And so dude was like, well, listen to this. You could hear the producer feeding stuff to Shaq about Kenny Smith. Mm-hmm. Stoking him up. It's the same thing now. It's always a dude that you don't see. Man, you gonna take that
in the background?
Why are we going with them? And you will hear him asking questions, certain things to get him to get a certain response. Mm-hmm. And it worked. So it's no different in society. There's always somebody not out front whispering something, saying something, keeping the fams lane. Whether it's okay, Shannon Sharp. I know you got a TV show and everything, but why are you worried about what Shaq said about somebody else in basketball? Why you just say you disagree? Why you got to attack him?
Analyst now.
But he's not. He's a soap opera. It ain't like you.
He on first take, but no,
he still. But how he get on first take? He got on first take because all this crap he did, and he really took off the shades, whatever it's called. That really took him off. Even when Cat Williams and all that stuff, that blew him to a whole nother
level. Yeah.
So my point, but yeah, we can strategically. I get on Stephen A. Smith. We can strategically comment on stuff without making it always attacking the person.
But and that's another thing
and
too.
We do that though.
That I meant to kind of talk about and get on, like when we talk about how the idea of like the beef and everybody's so quick to say like the things that they don't like about somebody. Yep. I've been hearing seldomly, like a little bit more probably frequently, like how nice Cat Williams is and how he looks out for people. Kevin Hart too, same thing. I've been hearing his name a lot more lately.
What's the white Owens, the comedian?
Gary Owens.
He was saying how both. Yeah, he was saying.
So I think kind of to that point, I mean, we don't have enough people talking about situations like that. Like, oh, that person's extremely positive. They do blah, blah, and like, oh, they really helped me.
Well, I love Anthony Edwards for that reason. Because one, when they were trying to compare him to Michael Jordan, dude ain't no comparison. This dude's been doing it, ain't even close. And then, why are you coming at LeBron James? LeBron James is a guy that's never been arrested, has never been in a scandal. He's still playing, breaking all kind of records, and you still trying to find dirt and dig at, So you need more guys like that, to your point, like Owens. But the problem with it is we sell each other out because, like Wendy Williams, when Kobe Bryant died. That ain't the time for you to come up, well, he cheated some of it. Then what they got to do, just die. Gil King. I'm sorry, Gil King. That's the kind of stuff that we got to stop doing, man.
I just thought about, like, kind of when we talking about Anthony Edwards. Even with Michael Jordan, like, I think we kind of have him in this light and this regard now, But I'm sure when he was playing, I was probably too young to understand, like, the news. But people talking about him going out and gambling and smoking cigars.
But they were saying that's why they were saying he didn't go to baseball. That was his unofficial suspension.
But you see what I'm saying, though? It's like always on games. Nobody was talking about like, oh, how great he is. And like, oh, Mike, you should just, they was like, well, he's a gambling degenerate.
Or even Allen
Iverson. They talk so highly of him now. Oh my goodness. It's crazy how much they talk about how AI, he changed the culture.
No, I think it's a generational. It's a generational thing because I think
I remember how they talk about AI.
No, but but the people talking about him was mostly white media.
Stephen A. Smith.
Well, he don't count. He don't count. He's an idiot. But I mean, most people talking about him didn't understand the culture. They related to him having cornrows as a dude in jail with his hair cornrows. He getting tattooed some motorcycle club, some motorcycle gang, and they related him because he bucked the system. He did. Where they were wearing suits and ties and everything, and he changed the whole system. He came in and said, "Yo, let me be me," one because he was young, and two because he was young and he was black.
I mean, you come to league crazy stuff though.
Yeah, but I'm talking. But even before he was doing that, the minute he changed his appearance, then all of a sudden it became an issue. Just like the practice. I give you the perfect example. Yeah, dude, and I agree with him.
We talk about practice,
but people miss. First of all, the backstory is his friend died. Well, let's put that aside. You criticizing this guy about practicing when he still went out there putting up 50 points a night. And the rest of the team's scoring 30 combined.
And they've been practicing
but that's what you
whole life.
And they beat you, and then you made a big deal.
Nobody passing the ball. They just playing defense. What do we do?
I mean, if you go back and watch some of them films, but that's the point. You go back and watch some of the films, they had 90 points as a team, and he got 50.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm making is, and then what happened? They turned on him too. Eric Stone, all them when it was over. That was your meal ticket. Mm-hmm. Nobody wasn't coming to see Aaron Snow, Aaron McKee, but Aaron McKee didn't turn on, and then y'all turned on him. Mm-hmm. So the point I'm making, that's the disunity again. And I say this all the time. 90% of the guys on that team were out of the league within 2 years when they left the
Sixers. As soon as
Sixers.
he was gone, it was over.
I mean, Rajah Bell hung around for a while. Eric Snow hung around for a little while. But most of those guys, they were gone.
Lou Will, we should have kept him.
Some of those guys, they were gone from that team. So, I mean, but again, disunity, that's what happens. You get in there, man, and, you just start moaning and groaning, and everybody start fighting and backbiting, and you can't win in sports, you can't win in life like that, because what happens is, I'll use sports as an analogy.
Greatest analogy, I love it.
Because the owner ain't dumb. He knows what he's doing.
I think sports is so much like a microcosm of life.
It is. It's highlighted more because it's more research, money. The money involved.
Yeah.
The money's involved in it, man. But I think it's the same thing. Owners are not dumb. When they set the market, when they're going to pay, that's what they're doing. They set the market when they decide who they're going to pay and not going to pay. And you best believe they get together. You best believe they talk to each other like, yo, we ain't paying over being that. This is the price. This is what we're doing. You know it.
But, on the other hand, I think that's where kind of players have started to come together and really start to.
Well, I can't say everybody. I think this.
I would say probably in football, you're starting to see it a little
because
bit
of the
too.
Eagles, I've seen it a lot. I'm not saying it don't exist. Because of the Eagles, I have seen like AJ Brown, Devontae getting happy for each other when they got their money, and it wasn't no big deal. And I had when Jalen Hurts got paid, I have. But for a lot of times, it does become a fight. And a lot of times, they fight against each other.
Yeah,
they do a lot of times, and it's funny because, for instance, Kirk Cousins got paid. Kirk Cousins ain't won nothing.
But I'm talking about it from like you said, like setting the market standpoint.
But what I'm saying is like Kirk Cousins got paid
Bell
and nobody
crawled, so we all could walk type thing.
But the point I'm making, Kirk Cousins got paid and nobody said a word. Jalen Hurts, who's won more than him, got paid in the playoffs, and it became an issue.
Yeah. But I think,
and even black people were sounding off,
So, even Dak Prescott.
So,
but I think again, I think even just a bigger picture and like not making it black and white, like guys kind of somebody when they first got that guaranteed, like majority guaranteed contract, they was sure like, oh, thank you, because now I know what I'm about to go get. Like teams do that a lot too. Like they wait for that person to kind of set the market, and then like Jalen Hurts, I think they waited for Jalen Hurts to get paid. Then I think Lamar Jackson got paid. Right?
They were talking this the other day, but they were talking about this. But they were talking about
CeeDee Lamb, same thing.
But they were talking about this the other day. That's why Howie Roseman outsmarts all of them, because he knows the market's going to go a lot higher. Yeah, so he gets his guys done. And we think it's a rate like Jalen Hurts is what the 10th highest paid quarterback now. So now he looks like a genius. Same thing with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. They're like I think the 10th highest paid duo receivers. So there's I can't think of 9 better pair of receivers. So he is, but to your point, he sets the mark. He does it early. Yeah. But imagine if we all stuck together. I'll do a little small. Imagine if every black Jalen Hurts just spent $200,000 to the Philadelphia School District to donate air conditioners. Okay, which is a drop in the bucket. Not going to do well. Imagine if every black athlete said, I'm going to put something in the bucket. Maybe you ain't got to. Maybe it's $50,000 in the city they play in. Our schools could be turned around. But we can't even agree on that. We'd rather buy 5 houses and 5 cars and 10 boats and have 8 different baby mamas. So we don't come together on the simplest stuff like educating our kids. Stopping hunger, making sure our kids have a decent meal to eat. There's some simple stuff that we can unite on.
And I even just thinking about that, I think it's two ideas of thinking when it comes to probably even fixing or addressing some of those issues. Like some people believe, like, all right, that's the government's job to kind of have programs in places or things in place. Like we paying all these taxes, like what are they doing? But then I think on the other side of that too, like to your point, like man, like we can't keep waiting for somebody to come in and save us and do these things. But especially when we talk about systematic.
But those people don't know history. And I use something you said. The Black Panthers, they had after school programs. They fed people.
Yes,
they did it. And the government kind of took that model. People took the model and raised money for the model. So that's
think about Black Wall Street. Like,
no, but I'm just
black
saying,
people coming together.
So that's what I'm saying. When I hear people
nobody
say
white came in and said, "Hey, y'all should form,"
because it's not the government's responsibility. It's if we took care of our own neighborhoods, it ain't the government's responsibility. If we do think like that, then we need to do a better job of picking the right government.
And that's at the root of our argument
we
right
do
now.
A better job picking and holding them accountable.
All over the place. Like, yeah.
this rare occasion, it is the man that needs to be
Right,
held
and
accountable.
I think
They should be. It's funny. What you say?
he said it is the man that needs to be held accountable.
No, they're all politics, not just the. I agree with you, but we got black politics that's been there for a long time and done nothing,
Yeah,
and they need to be held accountable.
I
We
mean,
only show up in our communities when they want something, when it's time to get a vote, and they all need to be held accountable. But that's my point. I was talking to a young man in Norristown, and he works in the school, and he was telling me how he just ran for office out there, and he won. And he was saying how he used to have that thing too about not voting. Then he realized, it does matter. And not only you should make sure you should talk to as many people as you possibly can to get them to get involved in the system. The system's not going to change by not participating, because what happens is it's a greater number of people who want to see the system fail participate. So they always get their candidate. And there's flaws in the system. The Democrats had, come on, there's no reason why you couldn't come up with a better candidate. I'm not against Joe Biden. I'm just saying at this time, is no way you knew you had to have a younger candidate, more viable candidate. So politics is jacked up, but nobody holds them accountable.
Yeah,
We're not saying, look, I tell you what, I'm gonna put you in office this time, but if we don't check these boxes, you ain't gotta worry about seeing me no more.
yeah. I don't think we do a good enough job of like kind of really forcing their hand. Like,
I agree.
I think is really we kind of just run with the ideas that they bring to us. Like, well, I like that. Like, we really picking the lesser of two evils a lot of times.
We have more debates in the barbershop than we do till we get involved. That's the problem. You can walk in a barbershop and everybody has an opinion how to do stuff. Half of them don't vote. Half of them don't go to back to school night for their own kids. Some of them got baby mama drama by 15
or
different
even
women.
the school board meetings and things like
there's
that.
so many things we could do at a lower level to make a difference. Just think about this. Can you imagine if every black father showed up at a school and started holding them accountable, saying that the disproportionate rate that black African American kids are being suspended, it's going to stop. This craziness where teachers can say what they want to say to our kids is going to stop.
Didn't that actually happen?
And I'm not saying in some schools, but just imagine, like, there's a guy in New Jersey who he had a problem with poverty in Patterson, so he has washers and dryers in his school, and he opens his school up on Friday night like a boys' club. His attendance is up. Well, it was up. I don't know how it's reached, but so you got to stop just complaining about it. Do something.
Yeah,
and we don't do a lot of anything but talk and complain.
We do a lot of wait. Right, we complain and we wait.
Yep.
And we wait until somebody brings us a solution, and then I think people jump on that. And a lot of times it's not even necessarily the best solution. It's like people can easily come in front of us, dangle a carrot, and then that's where it's like our attention.
Because it's easy to just go. And I think part of this unity, in our community is it's far easier to go along and do nothing and complain than it is to actually, because it takes work to get involved. It takes work to make the difference. It's just like the person that's always, the number two person is always the smartest person, can always tell the leader what to do until they get in that position.
Yeah, that's the word.
It's like, we all play ball. It's like somebody comes up to you. When I was in college, this dude used to come up to me after every game and tell me what I should have did. Dude, you got cut. you ain't playing. You barely playing in front of Jim. So now all of a sudden you understand what I should do in front of all these people. And every level but you get that all the time though, right? But that's my point. You can do it on the bench that can't play. Want to tell you, I would have went left. It's always going to be people like that in life. The object of it is just like you want to win in sports. How can we get enough people headed in the right direction? That's the question. How can we get enough people willing to sacrifice a little bit of self, saying everything won't be all about me all the time, headed in the right direction to say, hey, let's do something.
Need a better
different.
coach.
Yeah. And I don't want to keep talking about King, but I love our chapter because our chapter's like that. We got a bunch of guys who come together. Ain't nobody concerned about who's the boss. Ain't nobody concerned about somebody doing one or other. And we all know our gifts. Like everybody's gift is not to go into a school and mentor kids. And then we cool with that. We went to the school. We went to Edmonds Elementary School, and I showed. And some guys who don't want to go into the school just showed up and they gave out high fives and fifth bumps. That meant a lot to the kids. That's in that guy's will, and I'm okay with that.
And I think that's a point to make. It's just some people don't kind of realize how they can help. They think it has to be kind of this grandiose, like action or gesture or thing that they need to do. And I think you kind of made the example earlier about how, like, what did you say, Frederick Douglass, when you were talking about how some people are
George Washington
Carver. Some people are farmers.
W. Du Bois.
Some people,
my man,
aren't meant to. The route for them isn't necessarily college, But then you got some people who may be able to support the farmer, by going to college or working in a bank or
buy from the farm.
Right, and that too. I think
and you know what?
It's so many ways that
somebody got to work on the farm.
Yeah, and I think we just kind of get caught up in like thinking, one, I can't help, I don't have what it takes, or two, leaving it to other people. Well, and that's where we get lost and killed.
I think part of it is if you're not looking into how you can help, you're never going to find out how you can help. That so when people tell me like
you find all the reasons not to help,
but see, then you really don't want to help them.
They don't,
because if you want to get involved, you'll find a reason to get involved, at the lowest level. For instance, like I said, I go back. Everybody is not equipped to go into the school and mentor. I know. I got a guy who James is probably watching or will watch it. James will show up at every career day I have, and he will show up, talk about his career, and he does it well because he doesn't have time to go into school every week. But he'll show up at a career day. When we out there high-fiving them kids, guess who was there? For the high-five and the fist bump. And it meant the world to those kids. Those kids didn't want us to come in and preach to them and give them a 7-point serving. And no, they just were happy to see a bunch. It was so impressive. This lady said, yo, I got to put y'all on Facebook Live. This is what real black men do. So, I mean, there's so many ways you can make a difference or create unity without always being a star. And that's not everybody's gift. That's not everybody's gift. Somebody got to hold the camera. Everybody can't be in front of the camera because the guy in front of the camera is no good unless somebody's holding the camera, unless somebody's directing. It takes a whole bunch of people to make a successful movie, and it's no different in life. But we can't even get together to make a movie because we all want to be the star.
That was, I think, a great analogy and point to end on. Like,
we all want to be Denzel.
Yeah, everybody want to be Denzel.
Some people can be John Singleton.
Look, I want my business agent.
Some people can be Metro Boomin.
I want my business agent. Give me the 10%.
But no, like I think
I'm good with that.
I love that analogy of like, man, thinking of it as a movie, and then there's so many different parts of it. You got the directors, you got the editors, you got pre-production, post-production, production assistants, but all of them come together to put out a product, something that hopefully, people enjoy or want to watch or something memorable,
Well, when you next time when somebody gets the award for movie of the year, there's a whole bunch of people who contributed to that.
People you never seen before.
Because the cameraman takes a stupid, crazy shot. Yo, you ain't getting moved. If he's filming the feet, he's supposed to be filming the head. Or if somebody keep flubbing their lines, it takes a whole bunch of people. And I think, and to me, you could be just as proud. You may not be Denzel, but guess what? Yo, I helped do all this stuff to get it together. I mean, so I think
I'll trust Denzel.
We have to get back to that. It's like, when you play sports, sometimes you're on a team, man, and you're the man. And sometimes you're on a team, you got to fill a role. And there's times when you play both roles, when you're the man and you just not having a good day. So you got to go to some of your other strengths. Yeah. So it's funny because LeBron James was talking about this. First NBA player he was talking about how he was surprised at the lack of IQ in the NBA. And they said, well, give me an example. He says, say the coach says run thumbs down to the right side of the floor, because you got a right-handed point guard and you want to go to a strong right. He says, but so the team figured it out and start playing it. So he'll come back and say, let's go thumbs left. And everybody's looking. I'm like, well, we always ran into that side. What do I do? just the opposite direction. But life is like that. There's a lot of people who don't have a high IQ in life. And I think instead of learning the things they need to learn, the basic things, so we can all be in unison, they drag their feet.
Yeah.
Because I don't. It's like when I do the mental health assemblies and I talk to kids and I tell them a lot of those kids get in trouble. You know why they get in trouble? It's not because they bad. It's because instead of them admitting they don't know something or admitting they got other issues at home that's causing it, they act out. Mm-hmm. And you see the same thing in our society. I'm not going to be a part of it, so I'm going to act out. I'm going to get on TV and talk about what a stupid idea it is. I'm going to be Candace Owens, and I'm going to create my own way to make money by saying all this crazy, stupid stuff, whether I believe it or not. But I know it's going to create a stream for me. I know it's going to create a different niche for me.
And I think that's part of today's problem in society, too.
Yeah.
It's just some people, man, they spew things that they don't even really believe in. It's just about that shock and awe factor, and
just to get the views.
Yeah, the views or the likes or the following, the money.
And I agree.
And I mean, even when I mentioned at the top of this, just all these things that kind of pull us in different directions. You know, that's part of it too. It's not even sometimes the messaging or how to go about doing things. It's just like even at a lower level, those distractions of.
But at what point?
You kind of spoke about the selfishness, and I think it kind of has something to do with that a little bit.
So, but my question is always, at what point do we turn it around?
What point do we turn it around? I think that's a good question.
As we close, what point do we say enough is enough? At what point do we start trying to get together and if everybody do their part, it's the same thing I say, and I keep drumming up King, but it's the same thing. We're just doing our part. We're not trying to change stuff in Los Angeles and Pittsburgh and in Nevada and California. We're not even trying to hold City of Philadelphia. We're just working our part. And I think if everybody just started doing that, we could actually get you, and it's not going to happen overnight, but you could build up to something that I think is pretty special. You can. I do. But I do think this, and my last point is, I think two things. One, I think we haven't produced leaders like we have in the past.
Nope.
And I think the other thing is because everybody's waiting for the next leader. Nobody wants to be that leader. Everybody's waiting for the next Martin Luther King, next Malcolm X. Somebody going to come along is going to lead us to the promised land instead of saying, well, it could be me. But on the same token, we have not done a good job. Just look at the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. We have not done a good job raising up leaders in this country, man. That is just not, I look at sports. They just recycle the same coaches.
Yeah.
Same coaches. And real quick story, I was watching Doc Rivers, and he was talking about J.J. Redick. But he said
I was laughing because they be beefing. Like,
nope. I gotta say, I thought it was the same thing, but he said something that blew me away. Stephen A. Smith was like, "Hey, Redick is coming at you and everything, and y'all beefing." He said, "No, let me correct you." He says, "He's beefing. I'm not beefing." He said, "Let me explain something to you." He said, and what he's beefing about is, he said he's beefing because I did something he didn't like as a coach. Yeah. He said, that's what this is all about. He said, I hope he gets that coaching job. He said, I hope he gets it so he can understand what it is when you got to make those decisions. He said, I wish him the best. I ain't got no ill feelings. He said, when I was playing for the Knicks and Pat Riley was the coach, we got to this heated argument about what I thought something we should be doing. He said, it got so bad that the assistant coaches were going to come in and break it up. Never got to that point. He said, I called them up a couple years after I started coaching and apologized because I realized it ain't easy.
I mean, we can have that Doc conversation.
Well, you're going the wrong way. I'm not talking about him, coach. I'm talking about how he handled it. Yeah. He could have very easily came back and said, well, this is, and he didn't. He said, well, if you go back and look at his career, he said he had his best years and he was playing for me. And I thought about it, he did. When J.J. Redick was playing for him, he had his best years.
Yeah, Doc kept picking him up.
Mm-hmm. but that's my point. But now you beefing at him like he did not, like you hate this dude did nothing for you. But that's my point. But he didn't. Doc said it. Doc said I brought him in with the Sixers, every places. He did. So. But I love the way he handled it though. He didn't get on there and say, and I thought that was so cool. Mm-hmm. Now I don't think he's a great coach either, but I liked it. But I liked the way he handled the conversation, though. He didn't get into how bad somebody was, and he didn't say, "I hope you don't get the job." No, I hope he gets the job, and I thought that was taking the high road.
But that takes a level of maturity that
it does. It does. But I think that's how. But that's and if you want to get unity, we got to get it. Mm-hmm. Everybody can't be right all the time. Everybody can't hit the game-winning shot all the time. It just doesn't work like that.
Sounds like it just people need to be a little bit humble and receptive to.
But now you sound like that's easy.
No, it's not. I know it's not. It definitely takes work, But I think that's we're having a conversation to say these things and hope that people kind of listen and.
Well, you just said like, oh yeah, these. Humility is a lost art.
I feel like we say a lot of things on this show that aren't easy to do.
But humility is now seen as a sign of weakness, and that's a problem. If you're humble, people think you're weak. We were just having this conversation earlier about some stuff that's happening outside. That typically happens because somebody thinks you're weak and vulnerable because you're not walking around acting like an idiot. Because you're so confident in who you are that you're not trying to prove it every day, and people see that as a weakness. Unfortunately, not all, but we live in a time where we did a show, we talked about women the same way. So that is not seen as humility is not as prevalent or celebrated as it should be. And that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
I think that's the truth. Like
people rather walk around, like the guy. Like I love Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith. They asked Emmitt Smith, "Why you don't celebrate? When you score touchdowns?" He said, "Because my father told me I always act like I'm gonna get another one." And so that's how he played his career. He ain't getting the jump on. Now, I'm not knocking anybody celebrating, but he said his father told me to act like you're going to get another one. That ain't the only one you want to score. So I think we have to have that attitude, man. We can be cocky and know we're good without always being braggadocious, without always at somebody else's expense. But I don't think you have to. I mean, if you do, you do. But I mean, I wasn't much of a talker unless you pissed me off. So my thing, physically and mentally, my thing was okay. I'm going to show you. You talk, now you're going to pay for it. We ain't going to say a lot. I'll give you a look and I'll give you some words. Okay, now you're going to pay for it. So I think, but humility now is not the same, man. People I don't know. People just don't embrace it like they used to, man.
No.
And they see it as a weakness. That's my personal opinion.
That's the truth. And I think, like I said, I think we say a lot of things on here sometimes that it sounds easier, but I mean, I kind of asked the question earlier, like, do we think it's something that is possible for us to have that sense of community like we did, or unity back in the day?
Yeah, but I think it's going to take a lot of work. It is going to take a whole lot of work, but it has to start somewhere. I think, it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's,
love it.
It does. You have to start somewhere, man. But I want next week, I already got a topic picked out for next week. Man.
Even better, we got it in advance. We can post it early like we did.
Yeah, we're gonna be in trouble next week, though, man.
So make sure you tune in next week. It may be our last episode.
What I want to talk about next week is
don't tell them. Come back next week.
Well, I'm gonna tell them because I'm gonna post it. I want people to think about it, man. Why is racism still prevalent? You keep hearing people saying it don't matter. You keep hearing saying that, and it's just you mentioned it earlier on the show. People think because it's not as bad as it was that it no longer exists. And to me, it's getting worse. And I think it's getting worse because we are in denial on both sides. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it earlier. There's some people who know how to use the buzzwords.
Yeah. And I feel like before we go down this tangent, let's save those thoughts. Because that's definitely an entirely whole other conversation. Yeah. But I think we kind of...
Why does race still matter? That's what we're going to call the show.
Discussed a wide variety of things today that... I mean, I hope are key takeaways from people, right? Hopefully kind of highlight things that we need to...
some key takeaways, man.
Things that we need to address within our community. I think the idea of just being humble. I love the analogy of the movie. Like, like we're working on creating,
I saw how you looked at my cup, man.
As a production guy. I think the idea of a movie and all the different parts that it takes for people to come together and build something special. I love that analogy. And I think that certainly applies to us in the world. Some of us are actors.
I think I need to read. Every week I come up with some nuggets. I think I need to read.
I mean, we're not getting paid for this.
Help me get my job.
0%. You know what? I'll give you a 14% raise on that zero. All right, guys. But thank you for tuning in. Another great episode of Above Average Black Man, where we hopefully, you came and you learned some things. We like to have inspiring, empowering conversations. So, Dev, you know what to do. Take us away.
Like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. We're on a lot of platforms, guys. My dad gave all the topics, so definitely give us some thoughts on what y'all think. Tune in next week. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Peace. Sorry, YouTube family, you missed us today.